Well, we just had a quick rain, which was nice, so I don't have to water in the morning. It's one watermelon. I'm excited. These tomatoes haven't turned yet. These snow peas are looking worse for wear after a couple weeks of 90 degrees already. But I have tomatoes. They're turning colors. I broke one of these yellow ones off. I don't know if you can see how yellow that is. I broke one of these yellow ones off a couple days ago by accident. So I let it ripen on one of the chairs over here. And I didn't wait long enough because I couldn't help myself. But it was still pretty tasty despite the fact that it wasn't perfectly ripe. And then I also have some red cherry tomatoes. They might be purple or something, but we'll call them red. That I ate too. Not quite right because I couldn't help myself again, but it was still good. So my first sunflower, one of the ones in the garden. I guess it's kind of smaller, which, I mean, fine. No need to be greedy. The ones outside, maybe their heads might be a little bit bigger. We'll see. And I think this is calendula. I finally have a flower opening. So I think I'm gonna soak it in some oil to make some more hand salve out of. It's got a couple other blooms, so I don't feel bad about stealing that one flower. Jalapenos are blooming. I'm excited. The poblanos were blooming the other day. One plant had 2 flowers, so I pollinated it against itself. Hopefully that's good enough, because these guys don't seem to want to bloom more than 1 plant a day. The ground cherries are just completely loaded. They must have all decided to set fruit on the same day, however long it takes for them to ripen ago. So I'm just waiting, because I think I'm gonna have me a feast one of these days if they all ripen at the same time. So tomatillos are still sprawling, except for the one bigger plant over here, which is kind of growing in the understory of the zucchinis. I have one, so I got free zinnia seeds, so I didn't end up having to buy any of my own, and I think they're all white, so I think that one's going to be a white zinnia. I think hiding in here is more calendula, so the one in the sun over here is blooming first, which is fine. And I think it was like a multicolored pack, so it might even bloom a different color. So when we had a rain a little while ago, last week when we had a torrential downpour, a lot of this mulch, it ran and backed up. You can maybe still kind of see the lines of how it rearranged itself over here. In some spots it's completely lined up. My cellar was definitely nice and wet. Things out here needed a little bit of fixing too. I've filled in a couple spots with a little bit extra mulch around, like those corners up there, the bottom corners, because the mulch had completely run. And it had taken down a lot of these zucchini leaves, so I cut a lot back. And you can kind of see where I cut them, because there's a lot of cut leaves in there, stalks. I don't know if you can see them all. So I cut them back, and it's completely filled in since. So all the corn is now tasseling. All of them, except for the smallest one here, have ears. It'll probably eventually put up an ear, but I don't know how big it'll be. I had to unwind the beans here to give room for that corn to actually grow, because it was getting strangled, and I kind of heard a snap when I was pulling one of those beans apart, but it doesn't look like it completely died, so I'm happy. Melons are taking over. I'm gonna have to reroute that guy probably. Pumpkins are taking over too. So these are, the one that I just moved is one of those, what does it call itself? It's like Winter Delight or something. It's like a medium-sized pumpkin with netting on it that's supposed to be really tasty. And then the other pumpkin that's coming from that way, I got some of those nice seeds from Acro that were for the sugar pie pumpkins. Hey, let go. Oh, I wonder if that one's actually going to bloom because it's kind of more of a yellow. Get the feeling that this one will actually bloom and maybe this one won't because it's a funny color. Yeah, so at this point the vines are so intertwined that I think it's gonna be kind of a crapshoot to see what pumpkins grow up where, because it's all the way to the end. So at this point I have 25 feet of pumpkin vines, and then some zucchinis hanging out in the middle of it, and then all sorts of nice melons and stuff. So those red cherry tomatoes were from over here, the thicket in there. But no worry, you'll get to see some more, because this plant seems to be ridiculously prolific and one of those like making a good 12 tomatoes per vine. So I think this guy might be tomato hornworm, maybe. So we're just gonna get rid of that guy. So this poblano right here was blooming yesterday, and I pollinated its flowers against itself, so we'll see if it actually sets some fruit. I can't tell with these guys, so they always look wilty no matter what at the end of the day, whether I water them or not. At least they stop losing so many leaves. I still don't know what I'm doing. At least they haven't died yet. One little bean in that pod. I've been snacking on beans in the morning when I'm out here. They're good raw. Some more beans on here, but gotta have the pumpkins let go. So there's the beans are getting starved for light by all of these vines here. Maybe I didn't plan things out as well as I should have, but every morning I kind of come through and give it a quick pot to make a little hole for the beans if they can sort of poke their way through, you know. That poor little guy. So these are those orange kind of melons. No female flowers on them yet. These are full door melons. No girly flowers on those. And then these are butternut squash. With like no flowers in there. I just don't get it. Maybe it forms after that sheath forms. I don't know. Maybe it's just like some bad plants or something, which is fine, you know. I like having an overgrown garden. So the mulch is a little uneven here, right? You can see the lines there, like rock formations, where it all just kind of ran down the hill. So these are patty pan squash, and then these guys are the honeymoon melons. So the melons are just taking off, and the cucumbers are kind of coming into their own too. I had a cucumber the other day too. And finally, because the neighbor has mountain mint blooming, it attracted all the bees, and the bees started exploring over here, and they found my pumpkins and zucchinis and stuff. So in the mornings it buzzes nicely. So I'm sure the strawberries could use more watering. Some of my parsnips have come up, and I still don't see anything out of those purple potatoes, but maybe this week sometime. Hopefully those parsnips are far enough apart. We'll see. They're going to be sitting in there until after our first frost here because I want them nice and sweet. And I'm letting these strawberries run all into the mulch because if the pumpkins want to vine themselves, then I'll let the strawberries also vine themselves all over it and maybe root in. So some of these tomatoes over here, the fruits got strangled by the flowers, but it's okay. I'll still eat it. I'm glad I did a little bit extra stringing up of tomatoes over the last couple of days, especially if we're gonna get surprise storms, and it's been a little windy too. Maybe this needs it. Well, its leaves are tucked in, so maybe it's okay. Yeah, things are nicely overgrown. And I don't know if you, oh, here's Venus flytrap still blooming. A couple of the plants. I should go through and really check for seeds. Maybe in a couple of days. I don't know why this picture ended up being kind of weird looking. Maybe it got tucked under the other picture before it opened, but fine. This mango is probably really good and then dead. The mint is taken off, at least the bigger one is. The smaller one is kind of too. It's even putting up a little plantlet from underneath the soil, so hopefully it'll catch up. Nor horseradish, but I'm not sad about it because a pot of mint isn't a bad thing. Let me walk around and show you that nasturtium. It's my first one. It's here. Got a little bit banged up in the rain, but... So I finally tasted their leaves, and it's a pretty tasty plant. I'm happy about it. This plant is kind of sad. Only has 3 leaves, probably because it got shaded out so hard. But now that there's a hole open here, because I cut back a bunch of the zucchini leaves, things are doing a little better. Like all this grass here is lemon grass, so it's not really at the size that I'm used to seeing it in like Asian soups yet, so I'm still leaving it a little bit longer, but maybe I should harvest some just to give it a taste. Maybe I'll make a soup or something out of some nice big juicy zucchinis and lemongrass. Oh, flowers, getting ready for tomorrow. Okay, I think I'm gonna grab my paintbrush and hand pollinate the jalapeno flowers. Because I don't know how long those stay open and I want to make sure that they get pollinated. Okay, till next time.